So E-Trade has this thing with Mercury retrograde where it just doesn't work properly during retrogrades. I mean, it would make sense. Mercury retrograde impacts travel, communications, and electronics, and in a certain regard, it actually the chart kind of does all three, even travel, because you're talking about price travel along a chart. So it's pretty kind of like disruptive. So these charts are moving pretty slowly, unfortunately. But like I said, this was going to be a pretty mixed day. We had a peak at the beginning of the day after this move from the bottom of a range all the way to the top of a range. We had a pretty sharp drop there, which is that failed attempt to break through key resistance, and then this decline through key support, followed by another move to a high there. And then selling from near oversold territory or overbought territory here, and then we have this big move here, pushing the upper end. This became the range, and we pushed the upper end of that range higher to here. Come on, E-Trade. I swear to God, like everything's delayed like 30 seconds. It's ridiculous. It's almost unusable. Like I said, it was a little difficult to determine if the rally would end at midday or at the end of the day, and that you can see why it was difficult because it's been such a back and forth type of day. And I'm just looking at this. I'm interested in the low cruelty card in the low situation. So my sense is I want to see how that kind of played out. My sense is that this cruelty levels here, because we did decline from this important resistance we met many times before, and we declined into the low there. And so it's interesting. It's a little difficult to determine exactly where we are. This rune right here is not friendly. This isn't a good rune for intuition purposes. Usually indicates that we're being led, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Misled. Usually means you're being misled somehow when it's in this kind of this position and it's near a move to the upside. So we probably move to the upside, have a high at the end of the day based on what's transpired. And then that would be a notable opportunity to open up a short position. With like probably a big gap down tomorrow morning. If not tomorrow morning. Interesting. I think probably tomorrow morning. There's not like if I'm wrong, there's not a lot of like, oh well, if you're wrong, it's okay, you can get out at this location. So it's kind of it's a risky trade, being that there isn't much. If we're wrong on the timing of the exit, there's not much opportunity after the timing that I see to get out of the position before we have this big move into a high here. This is all pretty bullish. I mean, the first on September, it implies that there's a decline starting in like it starts in December, like coming out of August into September, and then it ends with this move to the upside. Like that, the futility card is a move higher out of a decline. Hey AV, hey Tabriz, hey Dumb Money. Do I think we could see 448 tomorrow? I think we probably see lower than 448 is my sense, based on the unicursal. The unicursal is usually a pretty sharp drop. It's not always, like sometimes it'll throw you off, And the unicursal, instead of like indicating a pivot point to the downside, it'll indicate a price level that when we do have our sharp multi-day decline, will break through that price level. So it's always important to mark the unicursals. But this is talking about tomorrow near the death card, or excuse me, near the devil card. Which is correlations to the very end of the day. So there's like this fake out at the end of the day, like this pop. It looks like a pop and drop, or like this big move to the upside at the end of the day, which is correlating to in this translucent yellow to the devil card, indicating we probably have like this move to the upside that's gonna kind of fake us out after a second low here. And then we've got the Fool card, which in all likelihood indicates a significant gap. Yeah, and you can see we've got the Universe card first thing in the morning. So 448, I think we probably see lower than 448. Well, let me see. It's so frustrating with the charts moving so slowly, guys. Just bear with me. Yeah, I think we see lower than 448. Right, because the Knight of Wands, it indicates the end of a rally. Right, so following the rally, you usually have like the transition point into a decline is usually some sort of volatility or sideways behavior. And you can see the following day we have a period of volatility. That period of volatility does end with a fast sudden move higher, which is that kind of like fake out, I think, at the end of the day that we're talking about. It might even be here earlier than the very end of the day, but there's a move here in the second half of the day towards the later half of the afternoon. I would like to be in a short position by now. I mean, it is possible that I think that this lower correlation here is likely this right here, and we've already gone into this rally, this Princess of Wands rally, near the close that offers opportunity to open up a short position, indicating that we probably are going to move to the downside from here. Although it's risky. It's the Prudence card. It's the, what's the name of that ruin? Trying to remember the names of the ruins. Lagu or Laguz, Lagu, and it's inverted. It's inverse. It's upside down. It's pretty beneficial when you see it in its proper direction. So we've got this unicursal. Either tomorrow at the end of the day, we're going to have like this sharp drop. It could be that it's at the end of the day tomorrow that we see the sharp drop. So like, let's say we're wrong and we don't have this big drop first thing in the morning. It's going to be like a low here and then another low here and then a fake out at the end of the day. But then if we don't see that sharp drop there, I really feel strongly we'll see it overnight from the 31st into the 1st. Because the way that you could read this unicursal on top of the devil card is two different ways. You could read the unicursal appearing here as a sharp drop overnight right here, or you could tie it to the devil card, which has its correlations to the end of the day there. There's also Princess of Wands there at the end of the day, so high correlation again at the end of the day. So there, it could be both, actually. We could have a sharp drop first thing in the morning or overnight tonight, and then another one overnight on the 31st. Either way, I'd want to be in a short position at this point. Will Powell do 25 basis point rate hike in November? Well, so I'll answer this. I just want to point out, guys, like the yes or no questions they're a little kind of like, suspect during this period of retrograde. Like yesterday, somebody asked us about here it's at the bottom. AV asked me about GWSO surpassing $4 or meeting $4, and I think we had said that it wasn't going to hit $4. It would come just shy of $4. So you can see like the yes or no answers are not as reliable as the ESO meta analysis. Like I can do these, but keep in mind it's retrograde. So will Powell do a 25 basis point rate hike in November? Yes or no? I got a yes. It might be higher than 25. So, okay, so give me an update on this. Will it be added to the NASDAQ? GWSO surpassed $4 by 15 cents. My bad on that, AV. So we're going to take a look at SPC next, too. I know a lot of people are frustrated with it right now, myself included. GWSO. Questions are going to take a bit longer to answer during this technical stuff that's going on with E-Trade. So the question is, will it be added to NASDAQ? Will GWSO be added to the NASDAQ? Yes or no? I believe that satiety card is a yes. Let me just double check my notes. I'm almost positive it's a yes. The reason why I double check is because it's kind of a decline card. It's one of those tricky cards where it's a yes, but also like a downward momentum card. Usually yeses are up. It is a yes, like I thought. Does GWSO reach $5 per share? Yes or no? I got a yes. On 6-7 September, do you see SPY hitting 455 where there's a gap fill? Let me clean this up while E-Trade is moving quickly. It won't let me get that one bar I want to get rid of. That's so annoying. $455 gap. Oh, you're talking about all the way back from when we when the retrograde phase started. I think we're probably going to see some sideways behavior here. It is possible that we go a little higher, which bodes well for the following, the third period of retrograde. It would probably indicate we fall from a higher price level. But in any case, we should see what we've done is we've retraced this move here, right? And then we've retraced this move here, right? So now we should see kind of like back and forth sidewaysy behavior going into here. There's likely one more move to the upside, so very well likely around this time here on the 15th, or within a day or so of the 15th, we most likely see a price level between 455 and 453. But I would say it's very unlikely that we see that before the 15th. Let's take a look and see here. Interesting. It's a little off as far as that pattern. I got rid of the labradorite in my readings moving forward. It was just sometimes it's very reliable, but then other times what it'll do is it'll give you a second kind of possible, very likely possible scenario that's so different from the first very likely possible scenario. It's like it becomes like a 50-50 shot almost. It's so annoying. So I got rid of it, but it's clearly made a little bit of a little unclarity here. Yeah, that low's probably on the 11th and on the 14th, and then we probably have maybe even on the 18th again, and then we probably have this big move here. So pretty mixed though. We have like a high, a low, a prominent peak, and then another low, and then a prominent peak and another low, and then we go into highest high thus far, and then a higher high thus far. Probably the same high on the 27th, possibly again. Likely the biggest move to the upside here on the 25th. Very doubtful, Tabriz, that we meet that we exceed the high. I'll be quite shocked if we were to exceed this price level of the 457 ish. If we were to exceed that in this phase of retrograde, I would be very, very shocked. We'll likely come right in range here. We'll probably come close to it somewhere in the midst of here, but if we're gonna hit it, it'll be over here towards like within a day or so, maybe on like the 18th or the 19th, actually, based on what I'm seeing on the 1 month. Hey, Deja Vu, welcome. It really goes back, and it's not going to be like that for every reading. It's just sometimes it'll impact a reading a little bit, but you should always keep in mind when you're looking at the 1 day readings, like the monthly readings by the day, like one of these readings here. When you're following one of these readings, you should always give it plus or minus a day. Like you should give it wiggle room and follow the sequence of events. The timing will usually be on point, but there will be cases where it's off by a day or two. However, even when it's off by a day or two, it's still going to follow the sequence of chart events. So you should be able to stay on task or on plan by following the sequence of events when you find that the timing is off by a day here or there. It's important to keep that in mind, that it's not going to be 100% of the time right on the ball. Even a day off, we're predicting these like over a month in advance. To be even a day off is like just we're owning predictions. Like there's nobody comes close. But you have to keep that in mind. You have to follow the chart events, because that's really the most important aspect of what the information that we get through ESOMeta. Do you see some sort of reversal on September 3rd by chance? I see a bit of a reversal right here, because we've just like retraced this. We've got this drop and then possibly another drop, right? So we should be probably around here, I'm guessing. I hesitate to use ellipses during retrograde, but I'll be ballsy and do it. This won't be exact, so don't make trading decisions based on this ellipse. I'm just giving you kind of an idea. We'll probably be somewhere around here. Somewhere around there. And then maybe again, like, we should follow something like that, is my sense. And then we'll go back to the upside a bit. Right, so something like this. And then what am I doing right now? I'm creating like kind of like ranges on the chart where we should see highs and lows over the next few days. It should be something kind of like this. I need another one of these. Oops. And then one more. Oops. Something like that. And you notice how the ranges get bigger as I go out further in time, because as we get closer, based on the sequence of events that transpires, it gives me a better understanding of, based on the cards, of what's taking place next. And so you'll see the ellipses get narrower the closer we get to time, to present time. So September 3rd reversal. Sorry, I forgot about that. I'm not sure why you say September 3rd. It's not a trading day. But it's gonna be kind of like back and forth. There'll be several reversals, if that makes sense. What time frame was that for? That was in the rally that it's in right now, AV. So very soon, very shortly. Nice. I was thinking I might want to ask a higher price level, but I didn't really get into it. It's not the best timing to be doing price level questions. And that's correct. September will have higher highs than August. Hmm. Yeah, I'd say we're moving to the downside. This other Kernel tarot guy. What do you mean Kernel? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Tarot guy sees a low on the 26th to the 28th, where you see a high on those days, and he sees a sizable rally in Q4, which correlates with you, but said he smells bankruptcy later in the future. It's possible there's bankruptcy in the not too distant future. I don't mean this year or like the beginning of 2024, but maybe the end of 2024, something along those lines. There may be some sort of thing, because it's not over the next several years. It's not looking so hot for SPCE. Like, you want to get out of it at the end of the current. Well, it doesn't look like a rally, but at the end of this rally that we're seeing the beginning of. So SPC on the 26th to the 28th. But Q4 is the reason why I'm not like overly like worried about SPC, even though it's gone lower, much lower than expected, and it's done it a couple of times more frequently than I thought it was going to do. Guys, I'm not going to get him right all the time. I've been pretty on point for the majority of them, and even with SPY, the majority of the readings have been on point. Not all of them. So you have to keep that in mind. But with the 1 year's been pretty good. There was one peak that I thought would be a high, and it just ended up being a peak, not a high. But other than that, we've been on point really well with the 1 year, so that's why I'm not worried about it. Q4 is looking like we have highs for SPC, year highs. Here we go with the slow E-Trade again. Yeah, see, like this one, we were really off on the highs and the lows. Really off on the highs and lows. Not going to happen every time. And a lot of that had to do with this. These ruins here really threw me, or not ruins, the Labradorite really threw me off, like I said. So I got rid of that. I'm not going to be using that moving forward until I figure out what's going on with it. So are you saying that they were saying that SPC has a high on the 26th, 28th, or a low on the 26th, 28th of September, or they predicted that it would have one on the 26th, 28th of August? Must be September. You know, I mean, it's this is based on the labradorite once again, which could have thrown me off. I see how I have this circled in translucent red, indicates the possibility of a low here, and that would be on the 26th, which they're predicting. And then you have the ace of princess of discs, which in often in a lot of cases is a bottom as well. So it might be that I have it off based on this labradorite again, and that would put this at the high. But that would deviate quite a bit from the S&P 500. We'll just say. I guess it remains to see. But I'm interested to know what you mean by Colonel Tarot guy. It must be a typo. I'm not sure what your logic is with the September has a higher high than August. Does that mean that the low is not on the 14th? What does that have to do with with where the low is? I'm missing something. I think the high's probably at the end of the month. That's my sense. Oh, inside the candle, he follows us. I know that. I recognize that. Cool. I'll check him out. I think once we start seeing the readings that are done without the labradorite in the bag of goodies, reliability on where the highest high and lowest low is going to transpire will become a lot better. It'll become what it used to be. It's the since I added the labradorite that it's kind of the overall daily chart behavior for the most part is pretty much on point. The big moves and stuff, but where the highs and the lows, highs high and lowest lows have transpired, I've been off with based on a lot of cases of the labradorite confusing things for me. Um, what does WAXP crypto look like for the first week of October? It's bearish price swings in the first week of October, possibly a sharp drop for WAXP. Oh, I already predicted that, dumb money. I said Elon's going to do something financial with Twitter, which obviously with X. It just as soon as I heard that he changed the name to X, I was like, oh, he's going to do something financial. I don't know why. It just came out to me. He did PayPal. It just makes a lot of sense. He obviously feels that that the whole platform was being like underused or undervalued or just not being used to the best of its abilities. I could sense just based on him changing the name that he was looking to give it real new direction, and that finance was probably where he was going, some sort of fintech. Does he create a coin? Does Elon create a coin tied to X? I'm not picking up on a coin per se, but let's see. Yes or no? I got a yes. Again, yes or no questions not the best during these like disruptive parts of retrograde. Oh, Conrad's Conrad had told me he was going to need to take a break because he had to do some traveling. When should you pull funds out of the market? Probably on the 25th. The 25th or the 20th, 20th or the 25th. Will Doge outperform Sol next run? Next bull run? They should do similar in the next run, it looks like. Maybe Sol will do a little bit more. I said it's a possibility of a bank. Somebody had brought up that a psychic saw or an astrologist saw possible bankruptcy in SPC's future. Where is it? Let's go to the multi-year, and you guys will see what I mean. Why I say it's possible. And this was like, I was testing out a new kind of 10-year reading, so this one looks a little bit different than the others, but still very much the same kind of reliability. You know what? I don't think if it goes bankrupt, it gets like bought up or some they keep it public and it gets bought up or something like that. Like maybe it goes close to bankruptcy. But looking at the 10-year, I'm not seeing bankruptcy. It doesn't look like we've got great chart behavior over the next couple of years. Like we want to get out in this this rally into 2024. We want to get into a short position out of a long position, and then here probably get back in 2026. 2027, 2028, 2029 are looking pretty bullish, and then the following 10-year period like really takes off. But the decline to the low, there's going to be a real big decline from into the low on a multi-year kind of scale. And the low correlation is here in 2026. Looking at it, I don't think it goes bankrupt. Looking at the 10-year, because there's it's looking really promising the following 10-year period and the very end of this 10-year period. So it's going to be mixed. We're going to go from a crest mid to late first week into like a pretty mixed back and forth kind of week here. Like volatility will increase moving into the 15th. Like it's kind of volatility is kind of like so on the 23rd was this pivot point, right? And like volatility would increase moving into the 23rd, and you can see how we had these kind of like wild swings moving into the 23rd and then coming out of them. But then it starts to kind of like mid portion of the second period which is from the 23rd to September 15th, mid portion, like the volatility usually kind of like peters out unless there's like major astrological signatures impacting it, like eclipses and stuff like that. But then as we move forward, so like it's kind of peters out mid like second phase, and then towards the end of the second phase, we move forward to this pivot point, which is the 15th, we should see increasing volatility into the 15th, and then coming out of the 15th, decreasing volatility. But it'll still be pretty intense around the 15th period, price swinging wise, and you can see how it kind of was here as well, here around the 23rd. As we move forward to the 30th, the volatility will really peter out. And my sense is that we probably have that move to the upper end of that resistance a little bit, like right around like the around the 18th probably, or the 19th maybe, 18th, 19th, 20th maybe. So be a little bit further out based on what I'm seeing on the daily. But with that said, there should still be some sort of pivot point, and we should have like a drop. We should have a drop here off of like the pivot point around this 23rd, or excuse me, around this 15th. We should have a pretty sharp drop kind of mimicking this, and then some sideways behavior, and then another drop and price swings into the 30th. It'll be a similar kind of trend as this, if that makes sense. And for that to hold true, what we want to see is a reverse version of this pattern. We want to see a reverse version of that pattern take place in the second phase, provided we see that reverse version of this first phase pattern. Provided we see that here in the second phase, then you can bet on the third phase being a repeat of this kind of behavior. It's like 90% of the time. Sometimes it's not, because nothing's always going to be that way. There's always other aspects. Every moment is different. I don't think September will have August low. Well, no, matter of fact, I do think it will. Yeah, it'll probably have August lows. We'll very likely revisit this price level here of. Yeah, because we'll still be in September at the very end of this phase, right? So what we're going to see is a revisiting of somewhere around this range of like 439 to 433-ish. I would say very, very strong possibility that we see that again over there. You know what? I'll actually put that in ellipse form too. So this is probably a pretty big drop right here, actually. It might deviate. I see what you guys mean by you're confused by it, but I think it may be that it's pushed out a few days. Matter of fact, no, I think the low is actually going to be a little bit later than September, based on the fact that the high is going to be a few days later than this pivot point. We'll probably have the low a few days later. And I know that there's like the low for the year is going to be in October, so it would make sense that we kind of dip further. What happens after this period of time is hard to determine too, but we're going to see something very within close time proximity to this. We should see a revisiting of a price level around there. Um, the high is probably here on the 20th 21st, come to think of it, and then we may be declining off of this. This may not be another high. This may be kind of like a decline. It could, though. It's hard to determine, obviously, but there's a big move to the upside here, is correlating to both the lust card and the wealth card. So maybe that we open much lower on Monday morning, and then there's a big move to the upside. But we'll have to look at the October to really get any deeper into that pattern. I just think it's probably the Mercury retrograde kind of influences, maybe a few days delayed. Oh, and the other thing we want to keep in mind, I should probably mark this off, this may have something to do with it actually, is the eclipses. Because the eclipses will really throw a pattern out of whack. I didn't mark them. That's probably what's missing, is the eclipses are going to throw something off. I would go with the monthly over the Mercury retrograde expectation. I would go with the monthly behavior, to be frank, if I had to choose between the two, because the monthly behavior takes into account the eclipse information. Or is there no eclipse there? I thought there was an eclipse. Oh no, it's the next month. Okay, so it's not an eclipse. I'd still go with the monthly. Yeah, and it ends up, I think it's probably right here at the very beginning of October. That makes sense. There's the eclipse. It is impacted by the eclipse. That's what's going on. The eclipse is kind of throwing off the pattern. So it may be a little, the Mercury retrograde expectation may be off a little bit, but I would go with the 1 month over the Mercury retrograde expectation, because like I said, that's going to take into account any influences that we haven't thought of. They still impact what the tarot sees, if that makes sense. All right, guys, I got to roll, guys. So with that said, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to follow that Rule of Karma. You do so here on the resources tab of our website, Tarot for Traders, where our angel investors are donating 5% of the profits that they make from this information forward through one of these click here links to one of these charities, and 5% of the profits back to the channel, providing the support the channel needs to keep putting out content. That leaves them with 90% of the money. Make sure they're making sure to spend that out of love. As long as you follow those rules, my friends, you're an angel